Oh man, look what Santa brought us, another 6S. Awesome, super beast quad. We're gonna pull this out of the box. We're gonna do some line of sight flying with it for you guys. After that, we'll do some FPV, and then we'll head into the studio and check a little closer look at the X220HV 6S version. I've got a PNP version here, and I have an XM Plus that I installed on it last night for you guys. It's all set up and ready to rock. Here we go, it's FPV Christmas. I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camp's RC. All right, guys, let's go ahead and plug it in and do some line of sight flight tests with it. You are watching the maiden flight of the X220HV version. Here we go, guys. Hopefully my props are on right. I am in Acro mode right now. Just taking it easy on the throttle, listening to the motors, as you always want to do whenever you do a maiden flight. You just want to fly it line of sight first before you goggle up, because bad things can happen when you goggle up. But I'm super happy right now because another bind and fly PNP quad is in the house. Really nice quads coming out right now. 6S seems to be just ruling the pool right now as far as bind and flies go. The companies are kind of racing right now to make the best bind and fly 6S quad they can, with really high quality motors, low KV, awesome punch out with not even a full punch out yet. Let's try a full one. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's gone. Little flip at the apex of my ascent. Man, that's really looking pretty good. Very smooth. And I'm trying out some Azure props. These are 5150s from Azure. Also a very powerful freestyle prop. Let's try out some Acro. Looking good. Looking good. Very predictable, as I would expect. Come on back over here. Very nice. Really nice. Do some rainbows here. Kind of an old school. Another big rainbow. Looking good. So let's go ahead and set it down and do some FPV, guys. Super excited about this one because I think you're gonna like what you're about to see. So here we go. H marks the spot. 189 bucks. Probably the best value 6S anywhere on the internet right now. Let's see how it does. All right, so we're all done with the Maiden. Now you're about to witness the best 6S quad under $200 on the planet. This one's $169 right now, and I can't believe that. With the coupon they gave me, they're giving us a sweet deal right before Christmas time on this quad, and there's not another 6S quad on the planet that will perform like this one will. If you have it, please show it to me, send me a link, because I don't know that it exists. This quad is so locked in from the get-go. Looks like they have done some kind of factory tuning on this flight controller, because whatever PIDs are on here are really performing super well. You can see the FPV down there in the right hand corner. You can see I have no battery voltage right there, and I had to go back into beta flight and activate telemetry, because right out of the box they didn't have it active, and thank God I brought my laptop to the field with me. Sometimes these things do happen on different Chinese quads, but once I got that fixed on the next battery, I believe it was a 4S battery we're going to test out next, you'll see that the telemetry for the battery is back, and you will get some battery sag with these 2306s on a 4S battery, but right here, this thing is humming on 5S. I am loving the way this feels, and I wanted to fly a few batteries before you guys, before I jump into 6S, because 6S is just a whole different level of control, throttle management, and a little bit different flying style than I'm typically used to, because I don't fly a whole lot of 6S, but I can tell you this. If you're flying multi-GP races, you should be flying a 6S quad these days. The guys that are winning races are ripping on 6S, and they're going to win races because they're faster, they're more maneuverable, and it just changes the complete feel of the quad. Now, I'm doing a little range test here with the XM Plus going out way across that field, and you guys know because I've told you before that those pine trees on the way outside right there, they're about 300 meters out. So your XM Plus really is a full range receiver. Now back over the pine trees over here that looks like a Doug fir, little knife edge over the top. Feeling really, really good. And this is pretty locked in on 4S. No vibes, no strange vibrations in the camera, no jitter. I don't feel a whole lot of prop wash. I'm using these Azure props that are new, the 5150s. I got some purple ones on here that match the kind of the wizard theme. They've gone back to that purple, which I really, really like. I really like that purple wizard theme since the very beginning. And this quad is a little bit different than the original one. It's now a lowrider, which is really cool. And you can freestyle this on a 4S 1300, and you're able to get 4 minutes flight time out of a 4S 1300 if you just back off the throttle a little bit. If you're flying kind of like a wild man and doing some really big freestyle maneuvers, you're going to kill the battery probably in about 2 minutes. But if you just get out there and do some cruising with a 4S 1300, and right now we're just gonna cruise. I'm gonna range test again, get all the way out here by these pine trees. You can get 4 minutes off a 4S 1300. On the website, they recommend a 15 to 1800 milliamp battery, which is probably gonna get you close to 5 minutes flight time on this quad. So very low kV motors on here. We've got 2306, 1650 kV, 3 to 6S capable motors. So the motors, the flight controller, the ESCs, everything on this quad is all set up to do 4 to 6S, no problems. And here I'm just cruising. Check out that GoPro view, super nice. It was the perfect day to fly. We've had like 2 weeks of rain for some reason. It is late in the fall, close to winter now, so most of the vegetation down there has died off, but still have a little bit of green out here. It's looking pretty nice. Just cruising, and this is what I want a lot of beginners to see. If you're just getting into FPV and you're thinking, oh no, I don't want a 6S quad, that's too powerful for me, you can run this quad on 4S, and you can run it this mild. You can just really get out there and cruise and enjoy the FPV experience. You don't have to rip, and you don't have to risk breaking your quad's frame. And the frame is actually a replaceable arm, True X type of configuration. 220 millimeters and with 5 millimeter arms. They also say that the 2306 motors on here are capable of running a 6-inch prop. So that's also cool that this setup can handle a 6-inch prop. So if you want to extend the arms, buy yourself the longer arms, and you can fly this one like a long range quad. Or if you just want to experience 6-inch props. It's a little bit different than flying your 5-inch props. Really nice and smooth, predictable, low to the ground a little bit right here. And I'm just showing you how this quad can cruise. And now I'm gonna come back in a little closer to myself. I couldn't help but just do one flip for you guys. And I'm supposed to be cruising still around these trees, nice and slow. Back around in between these two. Back out into the field, and that's feeling really good. So now we're back on 5S, and we're going to do some more ripping. So I'm just going to rip over here to this tree and try a power loop over this tree. First power loop I've tried with this quad seemed to do just fine. Now it doesn't feel heavy. This quad is heavier than some of the other 4S quads out there that might go falling into the ultralight category, but this quad does not feel heavy in the air. And that's good because this is over 400 grams, over 450 grams, and we're gonna do some weigh-ins once we go to the studio and check this quad out a little closer. But man, look at the level of control, stall, back around this tree right here, split S and back under the tree. No vegetation right now, so I gotta watch out for those sort of ghost branches. Back around the tree and back low to the ground there. Do a little boost up. Inverted. Super nice. I would like the way it feels on 5S, but where it's really fun is on 6. If you're a more experienced or intermediate pilot, you are going to love this quad on a 6S battery. So I'm running a 6S 1050, and that's the popular size for a lot of racers. It's a lightweight battery. It's even lighter than a 4S 1300. Most of my 4S 1300s weigh just a few more grams than the 1050 6S, which is pretty amazing. So as you can see right here, immediately the controls, it seems like everything just goes to hypervision on 6S, and it's hard to explain. Everything just becomes more aware, your senses become heightened, and the throttle becomes more sensitive. You also have to back off the throttle and sort of almost learn how to fly all over again on 6S, because look at how snappy everything becomes. Yaw axis is just really alive. The roll and pitch are very sensitive as well. You can back down the rates if you don't like that, but I'm loving the way this feels on 6S. So I think they have a winner here, and this one's even better than the Wizard TS215 that we flew last week for you guys. And I love the TS215, don't get me wrong, but this is really flying like a Maserati. So beautiful sports car. This would be a supercar of Eachine quadcopters. I mean, look at the speed that this quad has, and it is just screaming. Beautiful sounding motors, very husky 2306. I love low kV motors because they allow me to get a little longer flight time and not smoke my motors on 6S. It gives a lot of versatility. So there is tons of versatility with this quad, tons of speed, freestyle or racing. This quad will win races, and it will impress anybody that takes it out for a freestyle session. Look at that. This beautiful control with this quad. And like I was talking to a buddy of mine again at the field, Clinton, and we were talking about Maiden Flies and how far they've come. We started out with the very popular Immersion RC Vortex 250, everybody's old school favorite. But that one's kind of like a hog compared to this now. So we are really living in a new era of FPV right now. This is completely changing the game, where these companies are going with their Maiden Flies. Because a couple years ago, you didn't see a 6S Maiden Fly for under $200, no way. The Catalyst Machine Works quads are absolutely gorgeous quads. They perform really well with Brother Hobby Motors and all the top gear, but you're looking at $500 for a lot of name brand stuff. Eachine has upped the quality on the motors. The coils are super tight looking, really thick, and we have a really kind of a better looking motor than I've ever seen from Eachine. I'm going to show you that on the bench. We're going to take this back to the studio and we'll look at some of the quality, and we'll talk about quality control and see if there's anything on that quad they missed. But so far, they even have one of the buzzers on there that will allow the quad to beep if the battery becomes disconnected. So it even has a backup buzzer for you. And we're going to talk about that. So let's go back in the studio, guys, and check out the Wizard X220HV. This thing is crazy. All right, guys, welcome into the shop. We're going to go ahead and talk about the X220HV, and I'm going to tell you about all the features that they've included on it, some of the stuff that I really like. We're going to talk about the pros and cons, and I'm going to give you an honest review on the bench of my thoughts and feelings about this particular Eachine quad. Now, there's a lot of really cool stuff packed in here, and I think one of the coolest features that you might like is the fact that they incorporated SpeedyB Bluetooth module in the very back here. When I first looked at the quad, I noticed there was something that looks like a receiver in the very back, but it's not actually a receiver because mine didn't come with one. I had to put on my own receiver here, my XM Plus, and my antenna's coming out the bottom there. Once you turn on the quad, this is so cool because you don't have to plug it in anymore. You can just tap to start scanning inside the SpeedyB app, and it should start to locate the module. So we have SBB UA there. There's a few other things showing up. We're just going to click on that module, and then once you click on the module, it should load you up in the SpeedyB version of Beta Flight. How freaking cool is that on a quad that's this cheap? Everything is on here, all the bells and whistles. It's really awesome. So you can go into the real-time schematic right there and see that everything is good. You can go into your ports, you can change around your ports. You can see that you can change the RunCam device to TBS Smart Audio, and if you push your stick to the left, your throttle stick without arming, push your stick to the left and your right stick over to the right, it should put you inside the menus, and then you'll be able to navigate on screen on your OSD and be able to change things on the fly right there, like your PID setups. You can change your VTX power from 600 down to pit mode. So if you wanted to start up in pit mode, you could go inside your menus right there and not have to worry about bothering anybody at the races, and then switch back to 25 milliwatt if you're using that for racing on race band for multi-GP races. But super cool. You have 3 UARTs available in here, and this is your regular configuration. We have the typical setup for right turn rear back here. Number 4 is right turn, 2 and 3 are left turn. We have accelerometer at 8K, gyro on here, 4-in-1 ESC running D-Shot 600, and on the telemetry at the very bottom where the other features is right here, just bring this a little closer, telemetry was off. So make sure that you turn your telemetry on. If you get this and yours is not turned on, you will not see the battery level in your OSD. So everything else is switched on here. Probably turn some of these off. Power and battery levels, you can turn this down a little bit. They had it a little bit high there, so I turned it back. You can set up your failsafe to drop or land, and I usually have mine to drop instead of powering down to land. You can save and reboot. This is so cool that everything is inside the SpeedyBee app. You can see your throttle and your roll and pitch axis and yaw curves there, degrees of everything, and you have all of your PIDs right there. Proportional, integral, derivative, super rates, RC Expo. I have 0. This is the way it came set up, and I didn't change anything inside here, so it's all stock the way I flew it today. And this is really neat. Check this out. I don't know if you've ever seen the SpeedyBee app before, but you can check all of your channel maps inside and check out your switches as well. So if you were trying to set up your switches and you didn't want to use Beta Flight, it already has Beta Flight 3.5.2 on here as well on the flight controller, so it's completely updated. I'm going to go to the OSD screen, and I can click here and I can move things around the screen. Isn't that cool? That is so cool. Click and hold, and you can just move things all around. You can change things, turn things on and off down here, and save or exit full screen. So you want to go back to the rest of the sidebar there. I love this app. This is great for being in the field if you don't want to bring your laptop along. So really nice idea for the X220. And we even have a VTX IRC tramp settings in here as well. 1 through 8, A through R, and our power setting. You can change the power setting in here if you want at the very bottom there. But there is a ton of control in here, and your CLI at the very bottom. And let's just go ahead and see if we're still connected after that restart. Let's type in version and hit return. So we have Omnibus F4 SD firmware on here. So if you're trying to press the boot button on the flight controller and reinstall some firmware, that's the way you're going to do that. But remember, when you reinstall your firmware, you need to do a dump and save all of your settings first into a spreadsheet, or actually a note card or something like that on your computer. That way when you put the new version on there, you can just drop your old settings back in there and press save. So let's go ahead and talk about the components that they've included on board. Now I've unplugged the battery, and check this out. If I leave it sitting there for a moment, the buzzer, the finder buzzer in the very back is beeping. As you can see, I'm just going to zoom in on that for a second. And I believe this is around 150 dB. It's actually really, really loud. Just going to bring it up. And this will do this every single time you unplug the quad. So there's a tiny little button right here, and that one's going to be your best friend, because you're going to have to press that to get it to stop. And just above that, I have my XM Plus, and my antenna's running out right here, and on the other side right here. So pretty cool that it has the external buzzer, which I love a lot. You can see that little 1S battery inside there. That should keep it beeping, buzzing for several hours out in the field. If you do lose this quad, you will hear it probably within about 30 yards. Very, very loud buzzer. Now the first version of this that came out was inspired by the QAV250, I believe, and you can see that X configuration there, and it has replaceable arms on the bottom, which is cool. You don't get any type of rubber to cover up all of these little locking nuts down here. Would be nice if they did include something like that in case guys wanted to put a battery on the bottom, but you do have a really nice rail on the very top for mounting your battery up top. Some people prefer to fly top battery or bottom battery. It just depends on what you'd like. You've got your XT60 coming out in the back here, 5mm arms, and like I said, those are replaceable, also extendable out if you want to put 6-inch props on this quad. These motors can handle it, and the ESCs as well. The ESC does burst up to 50 amp, so you have plenty of wiggle room here for batteries from 4 to 6S, which is super cool. I also like the fact that on these motors, aside from the 4-in-1 ESC they chose, they have purple wires on here. They do have some type of, looks like electrical tape right around the wires to hold those down so they don't fly up. I would probably suggest putting a small zip tie over top of that just in case this gets worn off a little bit later by dirt and sand out in the field. Now the biggest thing that I really like on this quad is the new motors. These motors are beautiful. Let's look at them from the very top, and I'm just going to zoom into the stator a little bit so you guys can see this. Really should take this prop off, but I think you're going to be able to see that the coils inside here are really thick and really high quality. This is a really nicely machined motor. If I can get this camera to focus, baby, there you go. Beautiful, beautiful Eachine motors, and I have never actually said that, so that is good for Bango that I actually think that an Eachine motor is beautiful, because you know what? I've been a bit of an Eachine hater for most of my life, and yes, I will make a little kickback off of this video if you decide to buy one, but these are the best looking Eachine motors I've ever had my hands on. 2306 1650 kV, so they are lower kV, but that's to accommodate that 6S battery. And man, that is a good looking arm on that quad. Really nice. 4 M3 bolts on the very bottom. And like I always tell you guys, go over the entire quad. When you get a quad from China, just go over it with a driver that's going to fit that M3 nut. And you will be a happy guy at the end of the day, because you'll still have all your bolts on your quad when you land. If you do lose one bolt, sometimes that can be okay, but you want to replace it as quick as possible so nothing disastrous happens. Now on the very front, I chose to add my own couch up here. This is just a TPU couch for my GoPro, and you can source those on thingiverse.com. In the very back, we have that sort of TBS Triumph clone with the Eachine lizard logo on there. Looks like a lizard wearing a pair of goggles. Man, that is exactly like the Triumph, so I don't know what's up with that, but this one worked. Another quad that I recently got, the TS215, I've never got an antenna that didn't work, but the one they sent me for the TS215 did not work at all. I had to just basically toss it in the trash. Something was wrong with it, but this one works flawless. And this one's also a stubby like what was on the TS215, but this is a better placement. It is on a Tpu Mount in the very back, and this is really important because if you crash, look at that, it has some give to it. You need to have some give on your antenna, or at least have it sort of horizontally mounted and bent up, sort of like what they have here. Otherwise, you have something that can get broken straight off the top of the quad. I usually never will do a vertical mount on the frame itself, but there's no way to do that on this frame. They also have a couple holes here for zip tie if you want to zip tie down your battery cable right here. And I did see some lines in the VTX in the video FPV feed coming back to my goggles, some horizontal resolution lines, and that's a little bit of interference coming from your antenna wire that's going over to the VTX right here. So if you look just beyond the prop right there, you can see that the power cable, the power source, is very close to where your VTX wire is. And if there's a way that you can separate this wire coming to your antenna right here, get it as far away from your battery lead as possible, and you'll get much cleaner video. But they do have an LC filter built into this particular quad, and it should clean up the video a lot. I really didn't see a whole lot of static in the video on this quad, so that's definitely good news for buyers of the Wizard X220HV. Now, before I pop the top on this for you guys and show you the internal components of the HV, I just wanted to see what a $500 quad looks like sitting next to a $169 6S quad. So $500, Catalyst Machine Works America. Very awesome quad. I still have it, own it, and love it. It has all the bells and whistles on here with Brother Hobby Motors. Premium gear is on this quad. So if you want to spend $500 and money is no object to you, I would recommend buying the America. It's an awesome frame. They actually have some new frames that came out since this one has come out, but this one has been a long time favorite with a lot of really experienced pilots. A very powerful and awesome versatile quad. Catalyst Machine Works happens to be one of my favorite companies out there. They do a lot of cool micros as well, micro frames. But today it's all about cheap 6S setup that's actually going to perform and not break down on you. And I did only fly this for an afternoon, but nothing crapped out on me for the entire day, which is great. So normally I am a little bit leery of something that is this affordable. $189 was a shocking price to me because I told somebody at the field that this 6S guy was $189, and I saw raised eyebrows when I said it. And you know, sometimes you do get what you pay for with stuff, and if you have an issue, I would contact Banggood. Sometimes these guys overseas, when you buy something overseas, can be really hard to get to. I know that these guys will definitely give you the customer service, but you're also going to pay for that customer service. So, you know, do you want to go it on your own, or do you want to try to have a little bit of support from the company that you're buying from? That's always a pretty good value. But if you're one of those guys who just wants to do it and get out there and do it for the lowest price possible, and you can take care of yourself a little bit and maybe get some help from a friend if you do have a problem or you have to replace a motor, I have other videos on the website that you can go back and click on, or on my YouTube channel, if you want to learn how to replace a motor, ESCs, things like that. It's not super hard. And if you're just getting into it, don't be super intimidated. But you are going to have to go down that road at some point on either one of these quads. You will break stuff, and they're not going to hold your hand the whole process through an entire rebuild. But it is something that you're going to have to do. So be aware of that. There is a big difference, as most of you guys already know, between quality, value, and what you're buying for a particular price. So if you can't afford the $500 5-inch race quad, I totally understand that, and that is why I show alternatives on the channel as well as the top brand stuff. So but I just wanted you guys to see, you know, a comparison of the two, what they sort of look like sitting next to each other on the bench. The two, probably one of the two biggest rivals out there, and in my mind, I know that for a fact they're probably going to sell more of this one than they will the America. And that's because of the price point, honestly. People are going to grab what is more affordable. They just are. Now, let's go ahead and pop the top on the HV. Look at the beautiful architecture in here that they have done. We've got our camera up front, and that's a Foxeer Aero Pro. This is another huge positive for this particular quad. When I first opened up the box and I saw the specs that they have a Foxeer Aero Pro on here, I got really excited, because that is another 5-star addition to this entire setup. Now the next one is a custom F4 built-in OSD with inside Beta Flight, and it does have a plug-in for your VTX back here. You've got your camera plug-in right here, and we have a receiver for S-Bus right here. So this is pretty much plug and play. You will have to solder on your own receiver if you get the PMP version. If you get one that already has a receiver built in, then all you have to do is find your bind button on your receiver, bind it up, and you're good to go. Back here we have that VTX that goes up to 600 milliwatt, 48 channels on there, I believe, with an MMCX connector. You can pop that off if you want to. Thank God they didn't use that little IPEX connector. Little tiny one pops off and hard crashes, but this one will stay on there really snug. And what's also super cool beyond the XT60 back here is the TPU mount that they have with that sort of Triumph clone on the back. And I'm pleased to say that this one works extremely well. And last but not least, they have the 4-in-1 45 amp BL Heli 600 ESC on the very bottom right here. You can see that the solder joints on here actually look pretty decent. They're all shiny, and it looks comparable to what I'm seeing coming from HGLRC. They have the tabs in the front and the back here, and you can see how shiny all of these are. The soldering on this looks really well done. So I think that they took the extra care in the factory to make sure that this 6S quad was soldered up properly, because if you're making something this powerful and selling it to people for a cheap price, you better make sure it's soldered up correctly, because it could be very, very dangerous if things are not properly soldered up. Now on the very back here, we also have a 2-stack configuration, which is on the horizontal axis, which is really nice. It allows you to put plenty of gear on here. And what I really liked the most was the fact that they have this external activated buzzer with its own little external battery back here. You can see that battery poking through right there. I would almost put something over this hole right here. They might have put this hole right here to let it breathe a little bit and get a little bit of air, but if something pokes up into that battery, it could be bad for your quadcopter, because it's probably gonna go up in flames and probably burn up something up inside this stack right here, which might end up melting your VTX as well. So you have that 150 decibel buzzer right here as well, shooting extreme audio beep out the back of this quad. It is really, really loud. Even on the bench inside the house, you can hear it a couple rooms away. It's very loud. But everything looks nice on here, and I'm really impressed with the build quality of the HV version of the Wizard. It's looking really dialed in. Now you also get a Runcam 3S mount that comes along in the box, which is really nice, because I've wanted to 3D print one of these for a while now, because this is actually a bigger bodied camera than the GoPro Session. I have other TPU mounts that were made. Most of them out there are made for the GoPro Session, and the problem with that is that it's too small, so I can't cram this camera in there. This does not come with the Wizard HV, so you're not going to get that in the box. They have a little disclaimer on there. They show it on the website, but it doesn't actually come with it. They just wanted to show you that it does fit in their mount. I'm just going to push it through, and it fits nicely inside their mount and protector. You have a space here for zip ties, or if you want to run, I put a little piece of VHB on the bottom of this, stick it down, and then run some heavy zip ties through there, some larger size. But you have camera access right there. Your battery doors over here, also for accessing your micro SD card, and plenty of protection for the lens up front, and a little bit of tilt, because this is a flat rail quad on the top here, so you will need something, a mount with a little bit of tilt. But you can see you got plenty of room behind the camera to add your battery for the top mount. So that's cool that they do include this. I like that a lot. And what I really like is that they're including my favorite props. 2 sets of my favorite Cyclone 5046 props come along with this. These are a great freestyle prop, a tri-prop with a little bit wider cord and really narrow tips. Make these really smooth and quiet, nice performing quad props. You also get some extra hardware, which is nice. M3 hardware and the smaller little lock nuts. You get 2 extra standoffs, one for the very back of the quad, the lower part, and up at the front right near the camera, a taller one. And you get a whole bunch of black mini zip ties. These are awesome, because these are pretty expensive at Home Depot, about $5 for a small pack of them. And you get these 2 little carbon wrenches. Like I've said before, I'm not a big fan of these. They strip out, and they're kind of more of a novelty than anything else. But if they had some extra carbon laying around, they just printed them for you. So let's go ahead and summarize this quad. I'll give you my final thoughts, and we'll wrap it up. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into some star ratings. Let's talk about the performance, durability, fun factor, and the build quality. The performance is a 5 out of 5. Obviously, the 5S worked great, the 6S worked great, and even I was getting over 4 minutes flight time on a 4S 1300, just cruising, kind of some slow flow style flying, which I call sort of a cinema style flying. It does perform well on the 6S battery, through the roof,
really nice handling, really insane throttle punch, and not a lot of sag on my 6S battery. It did jump down to 20 amp at one point, but I leveled off and I came back up in my percentages on the battery, my voltage percentage. But fun factor is also 5 out of 5. Durability is 5 out of 5. We have 5mm arms on here and a nice thick 3mm bottom plate. So I believe the top plate is 2mm on the top of this quad, but the HV version seems to have everything that I want on here. It has the Speedy B Bluetooth on here, so you don't have to use your cable at the field or your computer. I brought my computer along just because that's a creature of habit to do that, and I did need to make a change on here at the field, and thank God that I was able to make that change, because I wouldn't be able to see any of my voltage. That's one probably negative, is the fact that they had the telemetry turned off, and I'm not sure why they did that from the factory. Maybe they just made an oopsie, but it seems like they did a factory tune on the custom F4 that's on here, the Omnibus F4. It flew really, really well. No vibrations. So performance also, like I said, 5 out of 5 for performance. Fun factor, 5 out of 5. And build quality is 5 out of 5. And I've never seen anything from Eachine that's actually been up to par. So I'm now not embarrassed to have this quad out at the field. And you shouldn't be either, because it absolutely rips. And a lot of times, like I said before, I've cringed when I see that logo. So now I'm feeling pretty good about what they have to offer here. And going all the way back to last week, I know, crazy, right? We had the TS215 on the channel. This was a ripper and an awesome ready to fly with that little X-Lite controller. A pretty good value, but this one's around, I believe it was around the $300 price point. This one's $189 with the coupon down to $169. If it were me, I would buy this one over this one. I love my X-Lite, but I would just bind this one up with my X7 and go out and really have a good time. Now, also coming up on the channel, aside from this review, we have the little mini TS130 coming up, and this little guy looks pretty awesome. Still got that camo color scheme on there, and it has a Foxeer camera. I believe it has an F4 flight controller, but we're going to review this one a little bit later, probably earlier next week. And by the way, I want you guys to, I wish you could just hear this close up, because these motors are super notchy. They're really, really notchy. So I'm expecting really high performance out of these. And these are actually 1507 4100 kV motors. These things are going to be banging on 3-inch props. So anyway, guys, thanks for checking out the review of the HV version of the Wizard. This thing rocks. If you want to message me personally and ask me any questions about it, please do. I will put all the links down below as usual. And don't forget to comment on this video, because the giveaway is coming up January 2nd. We just gave away a Tiny Hawk. Now we're giving away another Tiny Hawk and an HGLRC Mephisto quad 6S Ripper. Another 6S Ripper out there. It is like the age of 6S Rippers. This is awesome. So anyway, guys, thanks again for watching my reviews. I really appreciate it. And if you want to make my day, please support me on Patreon. I would love it. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas to me, the HV. I'm Justin Davis. Take care, guys. Be well. Happy flying. I'll see you on the next one.